You're listening to ESOPOD, the Foliance ESOP podcast. So how's everything going up at Lifeline today? How's the weather?
No, I think well, weather's good. Yeah, everything is going pretty good as far as I can tell. There's always little things that we run into here, but everything's going as smooth as normal.
Yeah, you're mostly in the office now, right?
Yeah,
As
yeah,
opposed to out at the
most of
shop.
the time.
How does the shop do, and in your office, how does it do with the humidity that we've been having? Like, does it stay cool?
Well, ours up here in the office is very random. It seems like it'll kick in and then it'll be all the way down to like 60 degrees in here.
Oh,
And
jeez.
then and then other days it'll be like 75 and extremely humid. So, and it doesn't matter the temperature outside, it doesn't really correlate to what it does in here. So
Interesting.
it's weird. Sometimes on hot, humid days outside, it's really cold in here, and vice versa. It doesn't necessarily correlate to the temperature outside.
So you never know what you're gonna get
Yep.
when you come in. That's good.
Everybody has a sweatshirt in their locker or in their room somewhere where they can put it on. On the floor, it's more consistent, but in the office, it's
Gotcha. I remember there's one office that we used to come to IT wise that must have been like the center of the HVAC, and it was like super cold all the time.
yeah,
I remember
yeah,
bringing a jacket up there.
yeah.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Just talk about who you are and what you do at Lifeline.
Okay, yeah, I'm Jeff Platt. I've been at Lifeline for 17 years. My current position is electrical support specialist. Um, yeah, what I do here is the work orders are completed by sales. We go through them and identify anything that's electrically related, and we any harnesses that are needed or any breakers or relays or fuses or programming or anything like that that needs done, we have to identify that in the work order and note it so that the production floor, it's a guideline for the production floor what they should be doing.
Okay, so a new order comes in, you just go down and say like, yeah, this has to get touched. All of these things are electrical related. And
Yep,
that gives them like a
yep,
checklist to go do.
yep.
And I know you've not been doing this forever. You were out on the shop floor not too long ago. Do you want to talk about like your whole history of Lifeline, where you've been?
Yeah, I actually started in the remount electrical department back in 2008. Um, I started just doing door switches and coil cords and exterior lighting, just more basic stuff. I advanced to eventually doing the underhoods, and then from there doing cabs. Um, and then remount back then we did our own like detailing and more of the work that other departments do now. Um, so like we would in the cabs, we would build our own wire covers, whereas Metals does that now. They're like prefabbed for the electrical department. We had to build our own wire covers and send them over to paint to have them rhinoed, and then they'd come back and we'd install them. So we do a lot of stuff like that. Sometimes in the certain times a year back in the day, we'd get a little slow. I don't know if it was times a year or just we didn't have very many orders. So I had the opportunity to go work in a few other departments. I worked in paint for, oh, it was probably a few months one time, and then another time for I had worked in cabinets for 6 months. So yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. We stay plenty busy on the remounts and the
Yeah.
new line. So, but it wasn't thinking back on it. It was a nice opportunity to learn just more about the ambulance. So is a benefit in that way. But yeah, then I ended up moving into doing some interior stuff, like interior lighting, O2 outlets, stuff like that. And then the HVAC system. Then I moved into doing components where it's our electrical cabinet where all of our electrical modules and everything are, installing those and wiring them all in. And I learned running the trucks and final inspection. I got into the HD programming side of it when Jason Morris left. I think I was back in 2017. So learned how to, add buttons, remove buttons, make the system operate in however the customer wants it to. Um,
So when you say buttons,
and
is that's like physical buttons inside the cab that they can like push?
no, like touchscreen. We have touchscreens. On the touchscreen, we add a button or remove a button based on what they want. Like if there's a front light bar on the truck, we'll put a front light bar button if
Okay,
they request it. Or, if they don't have a front light bar, we remove that button. So,
sure.
and that's when I'm going through the work orders now. That's some of the stuff I identify for the floor to go off of as well. Um, yeah, just before I came up here, when I was on the production floor, I worked in the doing the fix-it lists at the end of the line and a lot of troubleshooting. So any electrical issues they had, anything wasn't working like it's supposed to, I'd go through and figure out why and get that all fixed.
So you sort of just went over a bunch of different electrical components. I was gonna
Mm-hmm.
ask, when I see an ambulance drive down the street, I think of electrical as like, oh, I see all the flashy lights and the sirens, but there's like a ton of stuff that goes into these. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about anything like how complex is the electrical component?
So yes, you're definitely right on the lights and sirens part of it, and there is a lot to that part of it. Even the tons of different lights they can pick, configurations, different sirens they can put in the ambulance, all of that sort of thing. But um, yeah, there's way more that goes into it than that. There's so obviously the interior lighting as well. You have all that
Yeah.
interior lighting. Then you have the 110-volt system, which is like your normal house outlets. There are those in there, which requires an inverter to operate. And then you have your HVAC system, your heating and cooling in the rear that all has to be installed. And sometimes they even get a combo AC unit where it's so it runs off of the truck's AC, but if they park the truck, you can plug it into a shore line. So plug it into like an outlet with a drop cord, and then it'll keep the truck cold or warm,
Oh,
whichever one, even when it's not running. They also have UV lights that sanitize stuff that we add sometimes. Um, there's a whole list of medical stuff we can put in there. Some we always put in, some we do upon request. But the our oxygen system is standard in there. They can get either one or two oxygen bottles, or technically they can even get liquid O2, a bunch of options in there too. A suction system, we have IV warmers, blanket warmers, refrigerators, drug safes. There's tons of stuff they can ask for that we had add
wow.
into an ambulance.
Just like going shopping. Let's go
Yeah.
down the menu and pick all different things. That's cool. Uh, is there something that interests you, especially about the electrical side of things? You said you had worked a little bit in cabinets and paint. Is there something that always keeps you going on electrical?
Well, I don't know. I've just always kind of been interested in electrical. Even I remember when I was a kid, uh, I bet I was in third grade. My parents bought me and my brothers all boom boxes, and this was in the summer after Christmas. But I ended up tearing apart all three of them and wiring all the speakers into just one of them, just to make. And yeah, so I've just kind of always been interested in electrical and how it works and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just the problems you run into as well. Usually electrical issues aren't easy to figure out. They're usually somewhat complicated, and I kind of like digging into stuff like that and trying to solve a more complicated problem.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, so you like to tinker and troubleshoot.
Yeah,
That that's very similar to IT, I think. We deal with a lot of different issues that come through and just got to figure out, okay, how am I going to fix it this time?
yeah,
Yep. So you are also on the ESOP Communication team. Uh,
yeah.
what led you to join?
So when I was with Lifeline before we got with Foliance, we were a 30% ESOP, and that started just shortly before I started working here. So I almost got the beginning of when that started. But um, after we got into that for a few years, they decided they were going to have like an ESOP team that met once a month, and I kind of got voluntold to
Mm.
that I was going to be on that team. So I did that for a few years before Foliance ended up acquiring us. And at that time, I was off the team. We didn't have that anymore. So I ended up seeing in one of our newsletters that if you wanted to, you could go to one of the conferences or something. If you know, so I ended up just asking to go to one of the conferences, and they said okay, and I went. You were at the same conference
Yeah.
I was at, I'm pretty sure. Yep, went
Yep.
to that conference, and yeah, after the conference, I was obviously all excited and revved up about the ESOP again. So I just asked if I was able to join the team, and they said, yeah, go ahead. That they'd love to have me.
Yeah. Very similar experience to me. I didn't have the past ESOP experience, but yeah, going to the conference for sure. Um, just it's just a bunch of different ideas and makes you excited about what you're doing. Yeah. Is there anything about ESOP or employee ownership that you find exciting or interesting?
Yeah, that's kind of why I decided to go on the do this interview because at the first you asked me one other time and I just kind of brushed it off. I thought about it, but just brushed it off, didn't respond. And then you asked again, and I was like, well, I kind of want to tell my story and how ESOP relates to every person, like a person like me that I just started in a normal production spot, the lowest level at a company, and just slowly worked my way up, and how the ESOP can really help a person like that at the end of at the final end of the thing. I'm about midway through my work career. If you start when you're 18 and you end up when you're 62, that's gives you 44 years. I'm right now 41, so I got 21 years to go. So right about the middle of that thing, and I'm starting to see it in the ESOP. How much I have in value in my ESOP, and without that, I probably wouldn't be able to retire, comfortably and
Mhm.
at that age. So it's really nice to be able to try to let people know it will pay off. You stick around, you work hard, you help grow the ESOP, it'll be there for you at the end, and you can retire, comfortably instead of retiring, just barely being able to retire or scraping through.
It seems like a very common reoccurring story where it's like halfway through your kind of career, at least in the ESOP world, you're like, oh yeah, this is a real thing. And you're
Yeah.
thinking about retirement. Hopefully you're doing it much earlier when you're a young person. But
Yes.
young people don't think about
And,
that. They're like, okay, I want money now to buy toys and cars and stuff.
and actually, that's what I wanted to say as well. That I, when I started off, I always just put the 6% so I'd get a match. Whatever they'll match. You never want to give away free money. If somebody's going to give you something for free, you should take it. You should definitely take it. And so by doing that, um, yeah, even me, I had four boys. I have four boys, and I've never had a lot of money, but just that 6%, you'd never even notice it. You don't see it gone or anything. But if I wouldn't have done that from the beginning, I would be in a far worse place than I am right now. So I really hope everybody does the minimum. It would be great to do more. I haven't been able to yet, like I said, because I have four boys. I don't have, a
Yeah.
lot of
Yep.
extra money going around. So yeah, hopefully everybody is doing that 6%.
Yeah. Like you said, it's free money
Mhm.
essentially that match that Foliance does. I know every
Yeah,
company is different, but yeah, it's like encouraging you to put money aside for retirement, and then the company is like, okay, here's some extra just for being an
yeah,
employee. Uh,
yeah.
that's pretty cool. So you said you have four boys.
Yes, yes. I have four boys. Noah, he's 18. Wyatt is 16. Uh, Jeffrey is 11 and Carson is 9. So I have, yeah, 4 boys.
Busy, busy.
Yeah.
I have 3 girls, so probably busy, but maybe a different kind of busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, do you do a lot of tinkering outside of work as well?
Uh, yeah. Like I was saying before, I get into a lot of different things. Just I'll see something and see it as a challenge, and then I'm like, oh, I've got to see this through. I so yeah, I've done a lot of tinkering. A lot of my tinkering is due to as well, like I want something, but like I said before, I have 4 boys, so I don't have a lot of money. So in order to get some things, I have to do it myself. Figure out a way instead of buying the product, somehow making it myself. For instance, like I just recently bought a mini donut machine that actually makes the little mini donuts, the same ones they make at the fair.
Sweet.
But I, but I, they cost like $12,000 new. Used, you can get one for like $6,000. But I ended up finding one online that had a burnt plug-in on it, and I was taking a risk by buying it, but I only spent $1,200 on it. Bought it, and I was able to rewire it and get it all working. And so, sometimes I do a lot of things just, a lot of the tinkering stuff just to get something that I wanted without, paying the price that
Yeah,
it is to buy it new or buy. But yeah, same thing with home improvements or miscellaneous products, vehicle maintenance. I have a 3D printer at home that me and the kids mess around on. I've done some things in the past for kind of like a prepper, not like a doomsday prepper, but like more of like a if society was to collapse, so you'd still be able to survive. Like I have backyard chickens. I
yep,
had I obviously done some hunting. I've I've actually made a still so I can distill water, or I can actually make alcohol with it as well. Uh, in order for fuel, in case you need fuel if some a whole collapse went down. So I've done a few things in that area. Um, I also do a little bit of woodworking. My nephew and my son were seniors this year, and I took their senior pictures. And I had been planning this for a few years, so I bought a camera used and everything, and learned how to use it real well. And bought different lenses for it and everything. So yeah, I got their senior pictures done. Then in the last couple of years, actually, I think I might have talked to you about it at the conference. I started working out and getting into fitness. So,
yeah.
and it was right around the time of that conference a couple of years ago that I started. So,
So it sounds like you pick an interest or something that you want and just kind of figure out how can I do this myself.
yep, yep,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
awesome. Okay, let's see. I think that is most of the questions I have on here. You said you had some notes. Is there anything you want to hit on for sure?
Um, one of the questions you had on there that you didn't really ask is how the tinkering like could help at work
Oh yeah,
or with work stuff. And actually it does. It helped like just random things that I come across. I'll be like, oh, I've already done something like this somewhere else. So yeah, it does kind of help. And as far as the mindset of just being able to try to work on things, try to figure out how things work, that obviously helps here. If you know how something works, you're more likely to be able to diagnose problems if you know
yeah, absolutely.
exactly how it works. Um, yeah, and um, I did want to talk about another thing too, just on the side of what was your question here? It says, are there thoughts about the ESOP that you want to share with Lifeline employees? And
Oh
I
yeah,
did ask that one, but another thought I have on that is, so everyone's heard the JFK story about the janitor in JFK. So I can say what it is. They JFK was at NASA and he asked the janitor, "What do you do here?" And the janitor said, "I help put someone on the moon." So how I've always thought about that, and at Lifeline, I feel like so we build ambulances, but at the end of the day, we save lives. So, but there's a flip side to that as well that has always kind of like weighed on me that if we were to do something wrong, it might do the exact opposite. You have the weight of you have to do it correctly, or you might hinder the EMS people or whatever in saving a life. And worst case scenario, it might cause someone to die if you did something wrong.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so you always have to keep that in the back of your mind, or kind of in the front of your mind, that you need to, we need to make these perfect as good as possible, and make sure we're not going to be sending a vehicle out on the road that's going to harm a person instead of help a person. And I think the same thing about the ESOP, that we're here to build wealth. We all are building wealth, but you're not just affecting yourself. You're What I do affects all of the rest of the employees here as well. So you should feel the weight of that, of the rest of the employees. If I'm wasting something, I'm not just taking money from me. I'm taking money from everybody around me that works here as well. So we all need to do that and use our license to act to make sure that everybody else is doing that as well. We are responsible for our own futures.
I wanted to ask, related to your hobbies, I know you have a lot of them and have done a lot of things. Are there
Mm-hmm.
any that stand out to you as like super interesting or weird? Like,
Yeah, there was. So I actually, a couple of years ago, oh, it's been probably 5 years ago now, I actually started a business where I was screen printing shirts. So that is actually, there's a lot more to that than a lot of people think. You have to put emulsion on the screens, and it has to be in a dark room because the UV light actually hardens it. So
mm,
you cover the screen in the areas that you don't want to harden with a it's a clear filament that's printed really dark on it, so the light doesn't penetrate it. And then you have to put it on a light table for the exact right amount of time so that you can wash out the section that didn't harden. and
interesting.
then and then the more colors you have, they have to. So each one's a different color. So if it's a three-color shirt, like this is only a one-color shirt that's right here, but if it had multiple colors on it, each one takes a different screen that has to actually line up exactly on the shirt. So it's a lot getting into it. I also did embroidery at the same time, and vinyl cutting, because you can do it with vinyl too, a shirt. uh, but it doesn't hold up as well as screen printing. The vinyl doesn't. But I did that for like we did jerseys and stuff. So the different numbers, a screen print can only make the same thing over and over. So if you had a name or a number or anything you need to put on the back of the jersey, you have to vinyl cut that. So and then use a heat press and press that on there. I also had an embroidery machine at the same time, and then doing the different stuff on the computer to make the designs, like the different images and everything like that, going through all that process. So there's a lot to that process of doing a
Were
screen
you
print.
doing that just for like your own personal shirts, or were you doing it for like a team or something?
I actually like started a business doing it, and I did it for like um, the softball team. I did shirts for the school, a few different shirts for the high school, just regular people that would ask for it. The only reason I ended up even getting out of it was because I got too much business was my problem, and I had to decide because my lead times were getting so long. People just didn't want to order anymore because I was taking so long, and I feel bad too because someone asked for, can you get a shirt? Well, not for 2 months. That's kind of a bad deal. So I just ended up kind of getting burnt out just because I was getting so much business, and I was working here still, obviously working 40 hours plus a week, and then afterwards having to go, after work, going home and doing all that in my garage. So I eventually just closed down the business and sold most of the stuff. I still have the vinyl cutter and the heat press, so I can do shirts if I want to in that way, but just for at home now, I got out of the
Gotcha.
need for
So
everything.
you're suffering from success, basically.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to go out on your own, I wasn't big enough where I would be able to have insurance or anything like, I, as far as paying for like health insurance and stuff like that. I wasn't
Yeah.
going to be profitable enough, and I had the family at home. If just it just wouldn't work out to go full time into that. I think it would have worked eventually, but it would have been a struggle for probably a couple of years to build up the clientele in order to do it where I'd actually be profitable and successful, for a full time job.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here still.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Uh, uh, Jeff, thank you very much for meeting with me. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll see
yeah,
you around.
anytime. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for listening to ESOPOD. If you want to get in touch, send me an email at esopod@foliance.com.